positioning of people, and listening to the voice of the customer.
Well, talk about the methods that you use to help leaders move from emotional reactions to clarity when things are urgent or feel urgent.
Right. Well, when I get called into that type of situation, I do a bit of an audit on the leaders first, which again, as I said, is why do you think you're in this situation? What do you think the root cause is? Is it people? Is it process? Is it money? Is it customer centric related? Let's figure out first why the ship is in the condition that it's in. Then we sit down and talk about, okay, now that you realize this, where do you want the ship to be within the next 90 days? What has to happen in order to make things turn? And let's actually make a plan around that. Let's put some metrics around that so that we can track, is the ship turning? And then let's make sure we have the right people on the ship that can turn the ship in the direction it needs to be. But I don't stop there. I tell the leaders I'm going to go down into the ranks and I'm going to ask the exact same questions. Because as I said to you earlier, leaders can disengage. What you and I think reality is and the floor of our company may not be the real reality that the people who work the floor, who actually do the work, they may see it from a different perspective. So I want to get to the perspective of the people that are doing the work and being affected by the work. And then I pair that up against what the leadership has told me. And then I sit back down with them and say, here is where I see similarities between where you think we are, where you want to go, and here are some disconnects. And these disconnects point to either people, process, or some other thing about how things are being executed within an organization that have to be addressed. Because you may be the CEOs, Curtis, and you're telling me what you think, but it's very important to understand what the people working for you think, because they're the ones who are going to do the turnaround.
I think you're absolutely right on that. And speaking of that, that goes into my next question. When you walk into a turnaround situation, which one is the hardest, fixing the technical problems or shifting mindsets?
It's mindset and it starts with leadership. You know, I got 49 years underneath my belt, and I was highly trained by GE in what I do. And I honestly believe the people that are involved with the issue, the workers, the people who have to do the heavy lifting, they want to be successful. They want to be empowered in order to do the things that they're saying need to be done to be fixed. That's where, when that information shared with leadership, I have encountered situations where management will say, I don't believe that. Of course, you're going to ask, why don't you believe that? These are your people. These are the people you've entrusted to get something done for the company, for the customer, for themselves. Because I was involved with some ESOPs, employee organizations. It's that mindset from leadership. Well, I don't believe what they say. Why? Well, because I've heard this before. Well, we've heard a lot of things before, but have you really gone down now and dived deep into the water to see what you're hearing now is true? And if you don't believe it, why haven't you gone down to the people you've entrusted for their advice? Because they know how to fix the problem.
We'll talk about how timing and responsibility intersect when leaders know that changes are needed, but they don't do it because they fear the consequences.
That there are some situations where, well, I have to answer to my shareholders, on X. Well, okay, but you're not going to get to X. You've got to, you, leader, are ultimately responsible for the success of your company. You, leader, need to have an empowered, holistic approach to how you do that. And it's not like being in the military where you're the general and you cut the order to the colonel and the colonel cuts it down to the major. It doesn't work that way in business. It's a holistic approach that you need to be thinking about. And that means you've got to look at your mindset and say, am I really thinking straight on this one? Or I might not believe it, but you know what? I'm gonna go with it because this came from the bottom up. And these people are telling me they can do it, and this is how they can do it.
We'll talk about the personal lessons that these high stakes environment have taught you about resilient resiliency and integrity.
Well, the first thing I learned at a very young age at GE is you need to be persistent and perseverant personally when you get involved in very tense and troublesome situations and you're trying to find your way through that. There's no room for chastising, finger pointing, yelling. You have to be persistent and perseverant with the message and the approach. The other thing you need to be is a little bit humble because when you're sitting in an organization that could be experiencing issues or wants to go in a certain direction, you don't know it all. You may think you do, but you don't. The real life of a company happens where the action is, and that's down on the floor in your engineering department, manufacturing department, quality department. So the humbling lesson that I learned early on, because I've obviously been involved in many situations at GE, Owens Corning, and Black and Decker, but especially for small to medium-sized companies, is be humble, listen. My dad used to have a saying he told my brothers and I when we graduated college and went out to our respective careers. And his saying was this: grow big eyes, grow big ears, keep your mouth shut, and you will learn something. And that's the way to approach these things.
Well, for leaders who might be listening who feels like something may be off but can't put their finger on it, what is the first step that you recommend them take to regain momentum?
Again, if I came into your company and you said I'm having X issue, the first thing I want to know is what is the issue? What have you done about the issue? What do you think is the root cause of that issue? What have you tried to fix the issue? And what has and hasn't worked? What have you learned so far? Because that learning is going to be used to resolve whatever the issue is you want resolved. And as a leader, when you get involved with these things, you really have to as I said, step back and find the time to do this. So I would tell any leader, if you think you've got a problem, and even if you don't know the whole context of the problem or the depth of the problem, put it down on a piece of paper, write it down in your journal. What is the problem? Why do I think I have this problem? What has been done to try to fix it? What's worked or what's not worked? Step back, think. Don't react, think.
Or tell us about any other upcoming projects that you're working on that listeners need to be aware of.
I am working on a couple projects. Again, I focus on small to medium-sized businesses that are anywhere from 50 million to 250 million, anywhere from maybe 50 employees to 200, 250 employees. And of late, most of my projects seem to be uh, the same in nature. We are having issue getting product out the door on time. And project management has three elements to it. One is common sense. You know what you want to do. You should know what you want to do. You should know why you want to do it. And you should understand when it's done, what does it yield for you, your company, your customer, your employees? That's the first thing. The other is logic. Okay, I'm at point A, got to get to point B. How do I do that? That's what I call project planning and execution. And the last third is project discipline. That's you choosing to follow a plan that will take your logic execute it to the goal or objective you want to get to. And so most of the projects that I have of late, there was the common sense there, there was the logic there. It lacked project discipline in several areas. One, they may have had a project plan, but they deviated. Why did they deviate? Because someone in the company said, this is a good plan, but if we did this, it'll create that, and that's better for the customer. So let's just add this in here. Well, if the customer didn't ask for it, it shouldn't have been in there. And scope creep is a lot of what I work on with clients. Only do what the client has asked you to do. Don't do anything more than that. It will cost you more time and money.
For more information on the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, visit www.curveball337.com. Until next time, keep living the dream.